Can you see my desktop?
Yes.
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 Thank you. So I'll give you an overview of what is enterprise planning function. OIT and state CIO have responsibilities for statewide IT governance function. Enterprise planning is a portion of this governance function that supports the state CIO office. Enterprise planning function's main focus is strategic alignment, which is ensuring all agency IT investments are in alignment with enterprise strategic direction. The key stakeholders of this function are the state agencies, which is you all and your agency leadership, and the enterprise service owners who provide the enterprise services for agencies' consumption. Enterprise service owners, they all reside as part of the DAS groups. So these two groups are our main key stakeholders, and the planning team constantly strives to establish bi-directional communication between these two users. This is to give an overview of what is planning process. At the start of a budget cycle, it could be a fiscal year or biennium, enterprise planning team collects agency initiatives and investments to ensure alignment. Specifically for this collection cycle, we are requesting for fiscal year 19 updates and fiscal year 20 and 21 newly planned in agency investments. What we do with this information that we collect from the agencies and from DAS, we perform analysis to identify opportunities for shared services, agency collaboration opportunities, technology standardization, and volume purchases for enterprise licenses. Specifically for technology standardization, planning team works closely with enterprise architecture team, which is also a function of IT governance function. And volume purchases, we work closely with enterprise procurement team. Outside of DAS, planning also works to integrate with agency governance process, which is this that we are trying to outreach and fold into your governance process, and also with OBM's value management process, which we will talk a little bit later in the next couple of slides. So as part of the planning process, we maintain a planning portfolio, which is where we collect all the agency initiatives and investments. The planning portfolio, there are a lot of questions like what should be part of the planning portfolio. So we have identified a range of parameters that would guide you, provide you guidance on what should go into the portfolio and what should stay out of the portfolio. So this range of parameters starts from agency specific initiatives to mission critical to business transformation initiatives, technology innovation, groundbreaking initiatives, and also if any initiative that is integrating with enterprise services like document management or electronic payment or electronic signature. All these are enterprise services. If any agency initiatives that are planning to integrate with this, it should be part of the planning portfolio. In the next slide, I will talk in very great details about exactly what are those parameters and how it would guide you step by step, what should go into planning portfolio. The planning portfolio criteria also falls in major project oversight criteria. Those that have not seen this policy, I have provided a link here. It's a hot link. It'll launch the policy. It talks about how enterprise planning portfolio is folding into major project policy and how it supports this policy. If you will read that policy, you will have a general understanding of what this policy is about and how planning portfolio is helpful in the implementation of the policy itself. This slide is a lot of details, but I attached it as part of the agenda that I sent you. So take a look at it, and this is very important. If you can socialize it with your agency, it guides you what should go into the enterprise planning portfolio. How it distinguishes each initiative is all the initiatives that are part of the agency project management tool should not belong in the planning portfolio. So this is the guidance. This is providing that guideline. So take a look at the first one here, executive, legislative, or federal mandate. So any initiative that is designated as a priority by Office of Governor, DAS Director, OBM, it should be part of the planning portfolio. If there is any initiative that is mission critical to your agency, you're serving a vulnerable population, and other guidelines that are part of this should go into enterprise planning portfolio. Larger investments around $5 million should go into planning portfolio. Any initiative that you're folding in as part of the enterprise service coming to the center, collaboration with DAS, should go into the planning portfolio. Initiatives that are multi-agency type of initiatives that you're collaborating with other state agencies, it should go into planning portfolio. IT strategic priority is what are the state technology priorities for the next 3 years from fiscal year 19 through 21. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud, data analytics, digital user experience, robotic process automation, all these are groundbreaking technology initiatives. So please put that in, regardless of dollar value, put that in as part of your planning portfolio, because this would enable collaboration across the state agencies. The last column there, common IT foundations and standards. That is, if you have renewals, annual renewals, please try to include that as part of the portfolio, not as a separate entry, but as one entry along with an attachment. So that would help us to see if we can drive any technology standardization or any enterprise licenses for HSS. So I have stated here, summary information only may include attachments. So usually your fiscal office or your procurement office has a listing of what renewals are coming up in the next fiscal year. You can include that as part of your attachment. Now I want to layer some additional information on top of this. So in the last row, you will see MPO. MPO is major project oversight. So what it means is you have put in all, say like you have put in 100 initiatives or 50 initiatives from your agency. That's more reasonable. 50 initiatives. So, or 20 initiatives. So what you do is, if a specific initiative is Office of Governor's initiative or DAS or OBM, there is a checkbox there that says, is this a major project or not? You want to select that. The second one is in combination with the dollar value. So if it's a mission critical process or a technology investment, but if it is also over 2.5 million or equal to 2.5 million, you want to select this box that is a major project. Okay, so that goes on like investment value that's over $5 million. You have to read the wordings there, the total spend over lifespan of the project. It's not just for that planning life cycle. This is for the overall lifespan of the project. If it is equal to or over $5 million, you want to select that as a major project. Same thing for multi-agency. If it is over 2.5 million or equal to 2.5 million, it should be selected or identified as a major project. IT strategic priority, because it is a technology investment that's groundbreaking, innovative, cutting edge type of technology investment. If it's over 1 million or equal to 1 million, it should be selected as a major project. This is the guiding line for you to make sure what should go into the planning portfolio and what should stay out of planning portfolio. This is not just for the point of context for planning and for decision lens. This is for your operational managers, application managers, project management chiefs, whoever that is there in your agency that is involved in decision-making process. They should be aware of this. If there are any further questions on this, I would like to pause here and talk and ask questions. What questions you have about this, or what we do with what we do in planning process, what initiatives we collect. Anybody online, anybody here in person, do you have any questions on what's covered so far?
So on the last item,
Yes.
because we are consolidating multiple things into one bucket,
which one, the last, this one, the Common IT Foundations and Standards. That is, so you say you're planning for agency-wide desktop refresh. Okay, now that is not something that we would be looking for strategic alignment, but there is a standard there. We will be working with enterprise architecture, what computers or laptops are being purchased. So we are also trying to look for volume purchases. So if we see multiple agencies are trying to purchase this kind of laptop, then procurement team would send out and do some negotiation with the OEMs or distributors. It's specific point in time type of negotiation. So we are trying to do that kind of and for renewals too, if there is a specific product that's being purchased, and we do enterprise alignment. So if there is anything that is, we work with enterprise architecture and service owners, and then we say, is this something that could be renewed or they can come to the center? So some alignment and reviews could happen in advance, not likely at the time of release and permit. No problem. So that is why, and those are like a lot of items, right? So we don't want like every single item to be part of one as an alternative in decision lens. We want like one line item with an attachment. So that way it won't dilute the agency portfolio. If you have any questions on this, Mark, Ken, and I are available to talk about this parameter list. It's very useful to help you what should go into the portfolio. Okay.
You're going to send us this?
It's, I think I already sent it as
It's not in my invitation.
Okay.
I had like an agenda, but that was it.
Okay, we'll send it. No problem. I think maybe as a follow-up to the previous training I sent it. Yeah, I'll send it. Any other questions before I move on? Okay. So we talked about people, what is enterprise planning function, how it is fitting in the bigger picture, and then we talked about the process, enterprise planning process, what we maintain as part of the process, which is portfolio, and we talked about the parameters, guiding parameters that enables what goes into the portfolio. Now we will talk about the technology. Decision Lens is the Ohio strategic planning tool, which is part of the enterprise planning process. And when you log into Decision Lens, each agency will see their own portfolio of initiatives. From enterprise perspective, planning team will see all the agency portfolios. So we have a bird's eye view of all the state strategic initiatives. So beyond strategic planning, which is the portfolio of initiatives, this tool also helps agencies to prioritize their initiatives and helps the leadership of the agencies in critical decision making as part of the agency governance process. So we will talk a little bit more in detail. So Brent from Decision Lens, when he's showing a demo of the product, he'll show how you as the Decision Lens portfolio owner, you would be able to maintain your own agency portfolio by adding and updating initiatives. And then the second piece of it would be how you would facilitate this rating process as part of your agency governance process, bringing the business division leaders and your agency executives, and they would rate the agency initiatives as part of the predefined rating criteria. He would talk a little bit more in detail about it. Okay, so there are two parts to this training. In this slide, we are going to talk about specific roles and responsibilities. What are your role as Decision Lens point of contact, and what is planning team's responsibilities? So I'll talk about all the responsibilities of the agency point of contact. You will work with planning team to ensure what initiatives would go into the portfolio. You would add new initiatives and update existing initiatives. You will
For the agency POCs, work with planning team.
Sorry, is that a question? Can you repeat? Hello? Okay. So agency point of contact will identify the voting stakeholders of your agency. This you will discuss with your agency CIOs, who are the voting stakeholders in your agency, and you would facilitate the rating process. We will give you special training for you after this, maybe one-on-one or a group training, or we will even visit your agency to help you facilitate this rating process once or twice to help you with that. And there are two types of facilitation. One is called at your own convenience, which is you turn on the rating and then your agency voters, they go do their voting at their own computers at their own time. Group facilitation is you bring everybody into the room and then you facilitate and then they make a choice. This is 25% alignment, 50% alignment, that type of rating process. And then I think at that time your responsibility for what has to happen in your portfolio is complete. In planning team's responsibilities, we work with agency point of contacts. We provide training to you. We'll supply job aids and any type of technical support that you need for us to help you manage this process with your agency. We will manage user settings and permissions in Decisionlens. So once you identify, you have already been selected as the owners of your portfolio, but you will have to work with us to give us a group of voters in your agency, and we will set their privileges in Decisionlens. And then every quarter, as part of the major project oversight policy, we will share the information with OBM. So what we want to do is, during the quarter time period, 3/4 of this period would be you can update the portfolio. The last portion of it, we want to turn off the updates, and then we want to turn on the rating so agency governance can come together and then they can do the rating of the initiatives before we stop that and then turn it over to OBM and then start the collection process again. So this would be on and off. And then DAS, we will do the analysis of these initiatives and then we report how the strategic alignment works and what is the analysis of all the information that we collected. There are several options here, so it's not like one size fits for all. We will work with you individually, and whatever is your agency's governance process, we will work with you to accommodate the rating process. So even if it sounds a little bit complicated, we will work with you, so it shouldn't be that difficult. This is just a listing of what are the rating criteria. I talked about the rating process, about the agency's votes to prioritize the initiatives. These are the criteria that your business and the IT folks would be rating against. There are only 5 if you look at it. The parent criteria, business importance to the state. So if an initiative, let's say JFS is electronic benefits, right? That is a very important business importance to the state. So what the division, that particular division, but then the CIO probably will say business importance to the state is 75 to 100% probably of that particular initiative. And enterprise strategy and alignment, I'm not sure what that rating would be, probably 25 to 50%, I think, depending on what encompasses the electronic benefits in JFS program. Feasibility and risk, if that initiative is not happening, I think the risk is super high, so that would be 100%. But then there are children criteria underneath, so each one of them would be would roll up to the feasibility risk. And security and financial. So the security and financial, these are special criteria. We don't want the group to vote on security and financial. We want only the chief security officer or the privacy officer, it's a designated security person in your agency, to vote on the security criteria for all the initiatives. Same thing for financial. Maybe it is a CFO or his or her designee should be voting on the financial criteria. Other than that, and sometimes in specific cases, agency CIOs or their CISOs too. These cases are also there, so they may vote on the security and the criteria. So that is the guidance, and these are embedded as part of the Decisionlens product. So Brent will talk a little bit more in detail about this too during the rating process demo. So I finished my overview of what is enterprise planning process and what is the portfolio. Now we are going to deep dive into Decision Lens demo itself, and Brent from Decision Lens will guide you. So at this time we will pause a minute and then figure out if they can log in to Decision Lens and all that. Is
How
that
about
what?
we do 5-minute demo first?
Yes.
And then let's take a few minutes to see if folks can log
Wonderful.
in.
Sounds very good. Yes.
You mentioned we have to update 19. Does this apply to Decision Lens for 19 as well?
Yes.
So
Yes. So
update means add new.
update.
If you haven't
If
got
you,
it in there
yeah,
already.
that is correct. That's 100% right. So if you have already that initiative there, and if you would like to extend the timeline or update the status of it, that's fine. If you did, I remember we collected it back in 17, so we may not have the fiscal year 19 initiatives, which means you have to add those initiatives. Thank
So
you.
can we say 19 through 21?
Yes, that's exactly the range we are talking about, 19 through 21. Yes.
Everybody online can see my screen?
Those that are online, are you able to see Brent's screen here? Now we see Decision Lens.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Good morning or almost good afternoon. My name is Brent Peden. For those of you that I've had the chance to meet, hello again, and many of you have not, so greetings. I work with Decision Lens on the customer support side. It's my responsibility to make sure that your teams, your agencies, and Vinitha's EPP team know how to use the software, use it properly, and are successful at extracting whatever insights and benefits from the software that are necessary to help your organization become more efficient and better. As Vinitha pointed out, Decision Lens is very adaptable, very flexible. It allows you to aggregate an enterprise set of initiative prioritization, as well as you can decompose down to the agency level. So if you're an agency POC, you can extract whatever benefits you need for your organization. The software is primarily two parts. One, it's a prioritization software solution. It will prioritize a list of whatever it is you're trying to prioritize, generically called in Decision Lens alternatives. In your case, those alternatives are the state's initiatives or projects. The software also has a second component to it. It allows you to optimize resources across your portfolio so that if you have dollars or FTEs or people hours, you can actually optimize those across the portfolio to get the most bang for your buck. I think later in the calendar year, we call that phase 2 or phase 3, where we can train on that, right? But today, primarily, it's prioritization and capturing project data. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Later, the software will actually add a continuous planning and a tracking of performance module. That's something to come early next year, and I understand that Ohio will be looking at probably utilizing that component of the software. For today, though, we're going to focus on capturing or the intake process of your project or your initiative data, maintaining that data, and then scoring or rating it against the criteria. We'll get into that in kind of an interactive component here in just a minute, where we'll have the opportunity to allow you to log in and you can try it out, kick the tires, so forth. And if we have any problems with the login, we've got Rohan in the back of the room standing by. And of course, offline, when this meeting is over, we're available to you at all times to help you get through that process. What you see on the screen right now is I guess we can call it the lobby. It's sort of a workflow concept here. Off to the left, it's got some information, your login name, and in the middle are your portfolios. At the very top is a task. You may not see a task right now when you log in, but when the EPP team turns on or off the voting, that task designated to whoever the voters are in your agency will appear. Just below that is a title of portfolios. Whatever portfolios you have access to, if somebody adds you to a portfolio, it will appear here. In most cases, if you're a portfolio owner within your agency or you're a voter, you may only see one or two. There might be a training module in there. And of course, if you add portfolios, they'll be listed here as well. So I'm going to actually go into this Decision Lens training portfolio. It's just one we kind of created to kind of show you how to do this. You can log in or you can access your portfolio a number of different ways. You can click the white space that you see appearing here in the middle, or you can go to any of the 12 or 14 pages directly in Decision Lens by clicking the drop down. With the end in mind, I'm just going to click on the sensitivity analysis screen. This is what you'll see after your initiatives are scored against the criteria. Unless we have a flash issue delaying us. Here we go. You might see some pop-ups. You can close those down. And you'll see the scoring of alternatives or the initiatives off to the far right. And once those initiatives are scored or evaluated against the criteria, they will appear in a list from most important to least important as they are scored against the criteria. Keep in mind this is a relative rank. So all of the initiatives are obviously very important because they're being scored against the criteria. This is just showing some relative value of how one criteria or how one initiative might fare against another criterion with their value scores showed on the far right. The value scores are all between 0 and 1. This is a value-based system. So an initiative that scores, say, a 0.576 is aggregately, if that's a word, scoring 57% against all the criteria's weights. Nathan mentioned earlier that 0, 25, 50%. We'll get into those scales in a moment. Off to the left, you'll have an angle bracket that will open up some filters and categories. So whatever categories are set up, yes. That's right, and that's when they log in. That's right. You'll notice that there's a criterion weights input bar, and you want to make sure that the State of Ohio enterprise criteria weights are applied. When you first log into Decision Lens, if they're not applied, you might see the criteria weights equal, but when you apply the State of Ohio weights, it will show the actual weights of the State of Ohio criteria. In a nutshell, that's what we're getting to. The next step is we're going to log in and we're actually going to show you how to update your initiatives in the software. So the next step is, I'll go back to the lobby. I see the screen loading. For those of you that are in the room and on the call, at this point, you can log into Decision Lens using your username and password. If experience is true, there may be some of you that have some struggles or you are unable to do that. If that's the case, let us know. We could probably get through that in here in a few minutes. And Rohan is in the room. He can handle any issues if you want to email him while we move on. But I'll give it a minute here, and we'll just see if you can all get in and get to your lobby. And you'll probably have two models in most cases. One for your agency and another one with your agency's title listed EPP training at the end. So for example, if you're with EDU, you'll have your EDU model as it exists today and your EDU model with EPP training at the end. Yes. Are your slides? Okay. I'm going to display the slide with Rohan's email just momentarily while we make sure that everybody can log in. Is everybody in the room able to log into Decision Lens? Is anybody taking? Yes. Sure. I'll keep this slide up so you can use the URL there to log into the software. Folks in the room are logging in now. If anybody on the call has any issues, just let us know.
It's good confusing. I would have read Ohio too. No, they did set you up with an account, and I just signed it. And did, you have to sign it. Oh, okay. No, I really didn't. Ron, we're not. Keep going.
Okay, we're down to 2 more people still logging in the room. Eli?
Went through this process last year.
You're working now or working? Yeah, that's working.
I think it's a password issue.
I signed in this morning, and I was fine. I didn't do it.
Okay. So, if you can just click on forgot password and reset it.
That was a good email.
Yeah, and email the link where you can reset it.
Well, he's logged in. We couldn't log into the guest system. So he won't get a password.
Start with the line. Go to your email, but I don't think you can access your email. I can't. You want to go back to the decisions link?
This you can get it through your phone.
Yeah.
So you didn't know that? What do you do? Okay, you're right. So go back to your decision lens.
We're not able to log into Ohio Gas.
Forgot password. No. Click forgot password.
They're saying no login server available.
And then hit submit. Now, in a minute, check your email, and then it should say, change your password, and it'll give you an opportunity to just add any password you want. So there it goes right there. And then, we'll catch up on the first step.
I think we can continue the training.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So in your lobby, you will see your agency model, which is your real model, and then your training model. So you can actually just go ahead and go into your training model. You can click anywhere in the white space to open up the training model. I'm going to go into the EDU EPP training model. And once you go in, you'll see kind of a dashboard view, which lists how many criteria there are, how many alternatives. In this case, there are 5 alternatives in the model that I'm in. And there's a number of participants that also have access to this model. Off to the left, you'll see a navigation series of links. The first one being criteria, the second one being scales, the third one submission, and so forth. The link titled alternatives is where you'll want to go if you're an agency POC and you need to add new initiatives or update existing initiatives. So when I click alternatives in this EDU model, this training model, there are currently 5 initiatives listed in here. If I want to add a new initiative, we can do the obvious with the orange button up in the upper left area of the screen, and we can click Add Alternatives. And you can go ahead and do that as well if you're logged into Decision Lens. I'm going to pause a minute here on this screen after I clicked Add Alternative. You'll notice that a pop-up window appears ready for you to enter your new initiative as well as populate all of the fields, including those that Vinitha had described earlier about whether or not it's a major project and so forth.
This is Keith from Public Safety. We've clicked on the Alternatives tab, but we don't see those orange buttons.
Are you in the alternative screen with a list of the current initiatives showing?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I don't have submissions either.
that's fine. It's probably a permissions setting for your name. What is your name again, sir?
Keith Albert,
Okay. And that's Alber?
T.
Albert, okay. Benita, when Rohan is, we'll get Keith Albert? Okay. Keith, in a moment, we're going to check your permissions. It might be just something where you have to have a higher level of permissions, that's all.
Same thing with Ed Grimm from Public Safety.
Ed Grimm.
ED, yeah, 2 M's.
We got it.
Same with Scott Heald from Commerce, Hield.
All right. Scott Heald from Commerce. Okay. I'm writing down. Anybody else just speak up?
Dominic DiPietro. I also have nothing under alternatives. I don't see anything.
Okay. Dominic DiPietro. Is it D-I?
Yep, DIPIETRO.
So that's Keith Albert, Dominic DiPietro, Ed Grimm, and Scott Heald. Anybody else that needs their permissions checked? Great. So for the rest of us, clicking the alternative button, add alternative, will bring up the new alternative screen. It's basically a pop-up window. Enter your information. You'll notice that there's a description field where it guides you with some instructions. Outcomes, benefits, and so forth. There's a drop down to select the agency. My guess is you'll probably just see your agency showing in the drop down. Organizational units. Text field for project sponsor. Again, each one of these field titles has a clear instruction on what to enter. Total budget for the overall project lifecycle, estimated start date, end date, and status field, along with a few others. You can choose to include an attachment with your project. This is not a requirement at this time. Are there any questions on how to add a new initiative to your portfolio? Now, at some point, you're going to need to update initiatives depending on what the schedule is as you coordinate with the EPP team on adding new or updating existing initiatives. Or let's just say you have an initiative in your model and there might be some error or typo and you need to update or edit the existing information. You'll notice in the alternative screen, as you hover over any of the initiatives listed in the screen, there was a small pencil icon. That pencil icon is the edit. And when you click the pencil icon for the highlighted initiative, a sidecar will appear from the right side of your screen. And that sidecar allows you to edit directly all of the information regarding the initiative. There's a scroll bar also appearing to the very far right where you can slide down and go directly to whatever it is field that you want to update. The updates are actually live. There's no save button. So once you make your updates and close the sidecar, those updates will be immediate. Hey, Keith Albert, can you tell me if the orange bar or the button has appeared now on your screen to add alternatives?
Yes, the buttons have appeared. However, the screen will not return values now.
When you say return values?
Yeah, I click on it. It just returns an empty screen.
Maybe can you just hit refresh in your browser? Dominic,
I
with
am.
you?
I'm good.
Okay. Ed, Scott, any issues?
I'm checking it now.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, Keith, if there's some sort of problem with the screen.
Scott Hill, it's working fine for me.
No worries. I refreshed. It's working now. Thank you.
Great.
It's working for Ed as well.
Fantastic. As we edit any of the initiatives, say, for example, you need to edit the status field from ongoing to closed or whatever status options are available to you, you'll notice, although I don't know if you'll need this capability, but if for some reason you have an initiative in there that you need to remove, there is a gearbox in the sidecar. The gearbox does allow you to delete the initiative. So be careful if you have unintended actions, if you need to delete or not delete an initiative in your model. You can also export directly from this screen as well as almost any screen in Decision Lens. So wherever you are in the software, as you move up the trajectory of becoming comfortable with the software, you'll always notice there's an Excel icon in the upper right, which neatly exports all of the information on your screen into a spreadsheet, which I know we're trying to get out of spreadsheets, but that feature is available to you. Again, any questions on how to add new initiatives or update existing initiatives in your portfolio? Okay, ratings. Now we're going to move on to the voting or the ratings process. Some of you on the call or in the room today may be voting or rating on your projects. I'm not familiar with how your organization is going to set that up. Before I show you quickly how to turn on, or not turn on, but how to access the rating screen, Benitha pointed out earlier that you have any number of options available. However you want to set up your organization, you can wait for the ratings process to be turned on.
Hey, Brent, I'm sorry. I don't
Yes.
mean to- a question just came.
Oh, yes.
That some of my agencies have been bringing up. Some of the large agencies have multiple initiatives.
Mhm.
What's the best way for them to get that information out?
When you say multiple, more than 10, more
Yeah,
than 20?
we're talking-
Yeah, you can manually enter them one at a time. If you have many, you can actually, there is an import feature. There is an option you'll notice from this drop down. Actually, it's the gearbox. Here. Nope, it's going to go back to the portfolio. There is an option under the portfolio overview screen. I apologize. And this is an uncommon method because we envision there being few agencies that have a large number, but you can click import and we can go through a series of wizard steps to import from Excel. I wouldn't want to disrupt this session today to go through those training steps because it might be the first time you go into that feature non-intuitive. It just might take a few minutes over the phone or with somebody standing next to you to show you that. But yes, you can import all of your project data from Excel. So that feature is available to you. I would recommend if you're in a candidate agency for that, reach out to Benitha's team and we'll work with you offline either later today or any other day to show you how to quickly do that. And if it comes down to it, you need to email the spreadsheet to us, we can do it for you.
Yeah, as part of the planning process, we try not to recommend the importing from Excel spreadsheet for a couple of different reasons. One, we want you to evaluate consciously based on each initiative, how it aligns with the planning parameters that we went through in a slide. So make sure that if you really want to import it, make sure that it is aligning with the planning portfolio criteria before you do that. Second thing is, you don't want to wait until all your initiatives are getting accumulated. Anytime that you know a new initiative your organization is planning, it would be important for you to come and add it here directly instead of getting it accumulated in a project management portfolio tool and then import it. So those are the two reasons why we recommend that you come and add it here. So we are encouraging you strongly to add your alternatives here directly, but if there are any other scenarios that you want us to accommodate, we will definitely do so on a one-on-one basis.
Okay, good question. Anybody on the call that has a question on the ability to get your alternatives or your initiatives in the model? Okay, I'm going to go back to the lobby. If you ever are in Decision Lens and you're in a screen and you're just not really sure where you are and you need to get out, you'll notice the small logo, Decision Lens logo, will take you back to the lobby, as well as the home link on the upper left. So I'm going to go back to the lobby now. I would like for you to do this as well. This is more kind of a show and tell because the voting has probably not been turned on in your model. But when the EPP team turns on the ratings, your voters task will appear at the top. Now you'll recall earlier, as I go back to the one slide, Vinitha described a number of different ways in which your organization can collect the ratings information from your stakeholders. You might have one voter, you might have 5. I've seen organizations have many, many voters, 20, 30. The software will handle all of that. We have a slide here, bear with me. And she used the term "at your convenience." Simply put, this allows your participants or your voters from their home station, from their computers, even if they take the URL and open it up in their smartphone browser, they can go through the ratings process on their own time at any time. So if you have, say, 20 or 30 initiatives and you want to rate 5 or 6 of them and then close it down, and you can come back and begin where you left off on another day. If you have many stakeholders that are voters and they're different locations or they're dispersed, you can have them rate, provide them a suspense period, and the software will aggregate and collect their results and score your projects. And then you can come together and review those results at any time. As long as the voting window is open, the raters or the voters can change their votes and log back in at any point and make adjustments. Oftentimes, organizations like to have group facilitation. There's actually 2 ways that I've seen this done successfully. One is everybody come into a room and everybody can talk about each rating and enter their judgments, and the judgments may be slightly different across the room. That's okay. We all have subject matter expertise and backgrounds, and the collection of wisdom of crowds is what the software can handle easily. Or I've seen other organizations bring their stakeholders together in a room and collectively discuss what they want to rate and enter a single vote for each initiative against the criteria. Whatever works for your organization is fine. If you want group facilitation, which some organizations may, you can reach out to Venice's team, or you can use our Decision Lens support. Ohio has many, many days of support from Decision Lens, and we can come and help you do that as well. Or you can do that on your own within your own stakeholder group. Any questions on collecting the votes or the inputs from your agencies before I show you how easy it is to be done?
So is this like a once a year thing? They vote?
The question is the
Anytime
timing. Yeah.
something new comes in, they vote?
Yeah, voting, we are planning at this time every quarter, but it also depends on new initiatives that have gone into the portfolio. If there are no new initiatives, then that is no voting. So it's just continuously updated.
So the question was about the cycle and the timing. I think the plan is this is a quarterly event if your agency has new initiatives in the model. You can add new initiatives anytime, but then the voting will be turned on and off with some coordination and communication.
Yeah, and if there are only a couple of initiatives added for that quarter, then only those 2 initiatives would be rated. You don't go back and rate all the initiatives that are already there, unless there is a need. If there is a change in scope or dollar, any major change in scope, then you may want to re-vote.
So once a voting window has arrived and the voting has been turned on, whoever the voters are in your agency, they will see the link at the top titled Rate Alternatives with the title of the portfolio. And they simply just click the title, and there'll be pop-ups along the way to help guide them. And there is a big, large orange button in the middle of the screen that says Continue Ratings. This would be a case where maybe there was already initiatives in the model that had been rated in the past, but there may be some new ones. Even so, you'll be able to go through and either review your past ratings or your past votes, update them if necessary, and you can move on to the new initiatives that need to be rated. When you click the orange button, you'll see that the first initiative is listed with the criteria shown below. In this case, my new initiative was the title of the project that I entered. And it's asking you to evaluate or rate that new initiative against the first criterion, which is enterprise impact. There'll be a definition underneath each. And you can bring up more information or definitions by clicking the available links off to the right, which brings up another sidecar showing all sorts of definitions for the scale points. As you might expect, what exactly would it mean if I scored 75% or 50%, etc. How well that one criterion fares against the initiative. The definitions will provide you more context on how to provide the best judgment as you move through the process. Now, once you enter a judgment for one criterion against one initiative, you can click Next, and you'll go through this for each criterion in your criteria tree. Once you get to the end of the criteria, that one initiative will have been rated and scored, and it'll appear in the sensitivity list along with all of the other initiatives as they were scored. Now, the first thing that comes to mind when stakeholders see this process is they go through a few initiatives, they read definitions, and they're making sound judgments. And then this is intended to be a fruitful exercise, not a time-consuming one. Once you become very comfortable with the criteria and comfortable with your initiatives, there are a few time-saving tips which are very popular. Almost every user of the software uses them, as the experience that I've seen, and that are these three little dots, these two icons with three dots off to the far right. By clicking either of those, you can bring up the option to multi-select. So, for example, to the far right of the initiative, that icon with the three circles allows me to rate the alternative or the initiative in multi-view. And you can see when I click that option, my initiative is titled at the top, and then all of the criteria appear below. And I can go through and click my responses efficiently and quickly. I'll turn off that feature for a moment.
Good.
And bring it back to the original one-to-one relationship view. And the other circle to the right of the criteria, or the criterion, provides the opportunity to rate the criterion multi-view. So what this does is it lists one criterion at the top of the screen and then all of the projects down below. The benefit to this option is if you want to focus on one criterion as it represents the state of Ohio, you can then go through your list of initiatives and evaluate or score all of the initiatives against that one criterion. So you can see if you prefer to focus on an initiative and evaluate all the criteria, or focus on one criterion and evaluate all the initiatives, you can do either or. There's an overall progress bar off to the right, also a view results link. When the voter or each voter wants to view their results and how they score against the criterion, that's what will appear when they see the view results. It won't show aggregate results if you have more than one voter in your agency performing this task. Also, Vinitha mentioned earlier that it's desired that a security POC evaluate just the security criteria, which I think there's 3 of those. Same with the financial criteria. I believe there's 3 of those as well. They will only be able to see their criteria that they are assigned to in the software. And I believe that's a coordination between the EPP team and your agency POC. You would provide the EPP team who that security officer is, and they'll go in and filter on the appropriate and the relevant criteria so that they'll only see and score those. I'll pause there for a moment. Are there any questions on how to use the software or even the process on how to score or rate your initiatives?
It's the EPP team.
What is the enterprise planning team?
So beneath it's going to be your team.
Yes.
That is going to be identifying who, for example, the security officer is. We cannot do that as the POC.
No, it's agency's responsibility to find out. So what we will do is after this training, we will work with the agencies to make sure that you're comfortable adding initiatives, updating initiatives to maintain the portfolio. So maybe mid-July, end of July, we will reach out and talk to each of the agency to find out who should be the voting folks for your agency's governance process. So you will identify, let's say, I'm just going to hypothetically say your agency's chief operations officer, CIO, and then some other division managers would be responsible for voting, and then you will identify a security person. This would be a specific security person to vote on the security criteria, and CFO or the designee of the CFO.
And we'll give that to you.
Yes, the agencies would, you will be giving it to us, and we would be setting up for industrial commission portfolio, we would set up those specific people with specific privileges.
Yeah.
You see? Yeah, and we will do this for every agency. And at that time, we will also want to find out what kind of rating process your agency wants to choose. And it is, if you choose, like say, rate at your own convenience process or a group facilitation, then we will provide that specific appropriate support required for that. All right?
I would like to add that in the room earlier, someone asked the questions about the slides. The slides that you saw, there's another 7 or 8 slides after that that walk through in detail these steps that I covered in both adding initiatives, updating initiatives, and then turning, or not turning on voting, but going through the voting process. So when those slides were sent out, you'll have those. And also, I think there's a PDF job aid.
Yes.
Each one's like a page or two that was also sent out. And yeah, there's copies in the room, but you can have those, make copies of those. As you can see, once somebody goes through the process, it's rather intuitive. It's not a very complicated process. But the first time your stakeholders go in the software, it might be a little confusing. Yes?
So, so I've picked out the folks that should vote on these initiatives, and they come to this page. Is there a way that they can, because I'm thinking, is there a way that they can toggle back and forth so that they can see the justification for this? Like,
now, when you say toggle back and forth, kind of move back and forth to the voting and say, hey, let's talk about this, and let's go back to the other initiative.
Sure, because when I look at this and like the criteria there, you have the ability to go into each one of those criteria and kind of write a justification for like the agency impact. I'm assuming as a project manager or whatever, I would go and what this particular initiative is actually going to be doing.
I think the question is, now when the initiative is first entered in the software, you provide all the information, the description field, and click all the options so that the voters have a good amount of information about the project to enter a good scoring judgment, right? And now you're talking about when you're going through the ratings process, there might be questions, or you want to enter comments, or you want to provide feedback. I know that this is a very unique situation, but I really feel that this criterion, blah, blah, blah. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. There is, as you go through, I'll click here, pretend I'm a voter now. So through the eyes of a voter, if I'm on this one criteria to initiative judgment, you'll see there is a little comments section down here. There's no comments, so I really, sorry, I have problems with my mouse here. I really want to express, whatever the comments by your voters, you can add those in here or guide your voters to add those comments. And then each voter, so I'll click add comment here. There we go. So Brent Peden added a comment, and then another rater will see that. Another rater can add to it. So yes, you can build up a library of comments as they're going through. So yes, you can do that, and they're all downloadable by clicking the Excel icon at the end of the process. But that's a pretty good tracking of how you want to have your raters provide feedback or input if they're not comfortable entering just the judgment by itself.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, like, if they had a question about that particular criteria, that they could go back and they can see from like the project manager's perspective why we think you should give someone 100% or whatever. I'm just thinking from a funding perspective, for Medicaid, we have to do this so that we can get money for the APD. So that should be quite clear to them when they go into
I would make that a part of your, maybe a governance that when you're leading your voters to whatever process you want to collect their ratings, say we are going to encourage you to include comments here, and then you as the agency POC can extract those, collect them, review them, and make that part of the collaborative process, so to speak. You can see as I entered that comment, it shows everybody that logs into the software, ding, there's a little one comment in there. Kind of highlights each other.
And the definition. What is it?
I think part of her question also is, let's say the project says XYZ and you have no idea what XYZ is. There's a quick way to jump to that description of the project.
Yes, when you click just the sidecar, you'll notice the icon is here off to the right. Sorry, trouble here. The icons in the upper section next to the project provide you all the project information. The icons down here provide you more criteria scale definition. So if I open up the sidecar for the initiative, which is this clipboard, there you go. All of the information that was provided by the initial submitter of the project will all be listed here, and they can scroll through and see all the information. So that's why that description field where I think what are the objectives, what are the goals, it's very important that when you're entering that initial information, you provide a nice paragraph for your raters to see. Good questions. Any other questions on the ratings process? Anybody on the call?
Yes, Commerce is here.
Yes, sir.
No questions, just checking in. We're
Okay, good. We were wondering if anybody's falling asleep out there, but if you don't have questions, we think maybe everybody understands, at least from a tool perspective, how to use the software to enable the process. Do you want to go through the remaining slides? I think there was a timeline.
Yeah, go through some of the slides and
Okay.
show them.
Yeah, as there's a couple slides at the end to kind of finish this off. To get through those, this is where we ended, the login decision lens. The first section is just adding your initiatives. I'm not going to land on these very quickly here because we went through it, but if you need these slides, each step that we discussed are shown here with clear screenshots showing you how to edit, and of course the ratings process. The task will appear at the top of the screen. You click the start process and you go through each rating, which brings us to the image again of your criteria tree, which shows that the security criteria and the financial criteria are recommended to be evaluated by those relevant stakeholders in your organization. And timeline slide.
So the main objective of this training is to enable you as a portfolio owner how to maintain your agency portfolio by adding alternatives and updating existing initiatives. That is the main objective. We will also reach out to you by the end of July to make sure how you want to conduct your agency rating process, your governance process, and we will set up those raters as part of your agency portfolio. That is coming. So we will give you adequate support and organize this rating process in your agency. The timeline to enter your fiscal year 19 initiatives by the end of July. If you will update your portfolio with all your fiscal year 19 initiatives, if it doesn't exist, add new. If it already exists, check the status where it should be and check the end dates and update the budget information, all that. Fiscal year 2021 initiatives, we ask by the end of September. If you have it, that would be super. Between July, August, September, somewhere that time frame, we will go through the first rating process. We will close down submission, conduct rating process. We will provide adequate support to you to go through that, and then we will go through the 20 and 21 initiatives. And you can update the portfolio anytime. Like, you all should be set up as the portfolio owner of your agency portfolios. You should be able to add and update exactly like what you did in training. You should be able to do it. At this point, if you don't have any questions, we will conclude this training. We will send you a follow-up email with all the slides that we presented during the training and job aids, and also the enterprise planning guiding parameters as part of that email. Any questions? Yes.
Are we able to have more than one person enter?
Yes, I mean, some agencies have asked us that. We are evaluating that. Originally we said we will only have one portfolio owner who can maintain the portfolio. The next version of Decision Lens is giving us complete freedom in that there could be multiple people updating the portfolio. This time we are limiting that to one, but if specific agencies request us that we want a backup portfolio owner, we are accommodating that situation. So if any of your agencies want to have a backup portfolio owner, reach out to us. We will accommodate that until next February when we can have multiple people updating the portfolio at the same time. Thank you, Ginny. Good question. All right. Any other questions online? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.